Boy, give me your hourglass, boy. You listening to me, boy? Give me your hourglass and your lunch money. I am very sorry you had to see that. Anyways, hello and welcome. It's me, Marls44, and welcome back to another Legend of Zelda Talk. So today we're going to be talking about Phantom Hourglass. Phantom Hourglass. Can't say that. Phantom Hourglass's dungeon, the Ocean King Temple. God, that's a bit of a mouthful, but it's okay. You know, the Ocean King's Temple, where you have to go back every single time, sometimes redo areas so you can get a new area to go to explore. A bit of a chore, but I honestly loved this dungeon. Okay, after the first 3 dungeons you go through, when you go back to the Ocean King's Temple to, you know, get the new area, those are the ones I wasn't really big on. But after that, when you're collecting the pieces for your sword, that's when I really started to enjoy it, like a lot. And the awesome thing is, you didn't have to redo the first 3 parts. You could skip ahead at that point. And it was pretty awesome for me because I really loved, as I said, you know, that point on. The first 3 times wasn't really big on. They were just too easy, you know? Not extremely easy, but they were pretty dang simple. So, you know, I was kind of just like, it's alright. And it's kind of annoying to have to keep coming back to do this. But like I said, once I got to collecting the pieces for your sword, that's when I really liked the temple. A lot. Sure, it does get really repetitive and everything, and I mean, that can get annoying for some people, even myself. Like, repetitive does get annoying. The repetitiveness. I don't know, I really thought they improved after the first bit. The first bit could have been better. I feel like there didn't need to be more, but they needed to make it more challenging, because it wasn't really much of a challenge the first bit. It was just kind of really easy. There was nothing extremely hard about it. It was pretty simple to figure out, and I don't know, the first like 3 areas in that temple were just afterwards. They made it more complicated, they made it more interesting. You really had to think on your feet, and you had a limited amount of time until, you know, your hourglass ran out, so I'd always run to the spots when I started getting worried. The safe zones. I don't know why I did that. The safe zones? What is that? That could be suggested as something else, Marls. Yeah, okay, I guess that technically is a safe zone for some people, but yeah, okay, we don't need to talk about that. But yeah, I would go to the safe zones, I'd figure it out from there, I'd look at the map, figure out what to do. At that point, I knew what was in what area, and I'd figure out a strategy, and it really made me think. It really made me think, and I loved it. I mean, that's what the Zelda puzzles are supposed to make you do, right? They're supposed to really make you think, but not to the point where it irks you and hurts you. So, it did that really well, and I really enjoyed it for that. And then, of course, when you came back, it was pretty simple once you realized what to do again, or if you remembered off the bat, maybe you played it the same day, just went right through it. It's hard to do that with that game though, but maybe you did. Maybe you did. And yeah, it was just really awesome with that. And then moving on to later on, before you have to fight the final boss, I believe. I think it's before you have to fight the final boss. Pretty sure it is. I might be wrong. It might be the last time you go before you have to fight the final boss. You know, just correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's before you fight the final boss. You go in, your hourglass stops working, you know, it's totally cool, you don't need it anymore, and then a bunch of the phantoms show up. You know, this is the point where you can kill the phantoms because your sword's complete, and the phantoms show up and you just start hacking away at them and beating them up and fighting them, and then more and more come, and you keep fighting, and I love it. That was probably one of my favorite parts in the game, if not my most favorite part in the game, because it made you feel that you had to work so hard to get to the final boss by defeating all these enemies that you've seen throughout the dungeon. Now you gotta face them all, and there's a lot of them, and you just kind of like destroy them or get destroyed. You probably don't get destroyed because, you know, it's like one shot and they're dead, but in the back. But still, it was awesome. I loved that fight. It was amazing. I can't even express how awesome that was for me. I loved it. I loved it so much. I thought it was perfect. And then moving on to the final boss area. What are you gonna do when the final boss area gives you tons of fucking steps? You wonder, this is gonna be hype. And it did not disappoint. I loved the first phase of the final boss. Of course, we're just talking about the first phase of the final boss because that's the other two phases were kind of ghost ship. So they were on the ghost ship and were the ghost ship. So we don't talk about that because that's not in the dungeon. I know this is kind of weird, but it's how they did it. So, like I said, the final boss, first phase of the final boss did not disappoint. You know, you were in this big circular area room with like 3 different floors, or 4 different floors, I think it was actually. I think it's 4. It might have been 3 or 4. And the second floor and above, it would have its tentacle hands hanging around the poles that are all around the center of the room, and you just have to shoot the ones with the open that has the eyes on them, and it would increase every single time. And you know, he'd like drop down, and I don't remember what you had to do after you dropped down. There was something you had to do, and then I think you'd have to like pull him to you with the grappling hook. When he like showed his eye, pull him to you and then hacking him. I think it was something like that. I might be wrong, but it was just, I loved that final boss fight so much. It was honestly by far my favorite part of the final boss fight, because you know, the other phases I didn't like nearly as much. They were not nearly as good. That final boss fight was amazing. I loved it so much, like crazy amount. It was so good, and I just loved everything about that first form final boss. I thought it also worked really well with like the dungeon's design and everything. It was just all perfect for me, honestly. That first final boss fight, you know, the fight with those phantom soldiers you had to fight before the final boss fight, both of those parts were so perfect for me, and I loved them so much. Like I said, some of the earlier parts of the dungeon I wasn't big on, but they were really simple for a reason, because they wanted to make you get a feel for how this is going to work when it gets harder. And I did like it when it got harder, when you had to collect the pieces for the metal for the master swords, and you had to find the areas. And when it got that hard, that was pretty awesome, and it was really fun. You know, as I said before, so really, this dungeon was really, really awesome for me. I loved a lot of things about it. The only things I didn't like was the beginning. Beginning could have been done better, I feel, even though it was supposed to be simple. I don't know, there could have been something better with it. And the only other problem I had with it is I wish they had a bit better save points, and maybe they made the parts a little longer. Like, so you were going there for the 3rd time, but you didn't have to do that whole first part again, and then, you know, do the next part you're supposed to do. Yeah, I wish they kinda, same with the second part too. You go there for the 3rd time so you can get the last area for the last piece of metal you need, and you have to do the first 2 second parts again. I wish they kinda like fixed that and made the parts a little longer. You know, made checkpoints for each one, and all the parts were kind of a little longer because of that, because it wouldn't be long enough. That would have been more reasonable. Yeah, those are the only 2 things I really found that bad. The stress for time was sometimes there-ish, but that wasn't too big. It was kind of like, you have to be smart with your time. If you're not smart with it, if it's your first time playing, stop, figure out, examine the room, figure out what to do. You know, don't push too far ahead and lose all your time and then have to redo it. You know, that's kind of your own fault, my fault. Like, I made that mistake so many times, it's not funny. With the second half. I call it the second half because it is. Yeah, it was a pretty awesome dungeon. Just the first part that bugged me, as I said, and yeah, it was amazing. Last couple parts, beautiful, perfect. Alright, well that is it for this Legend of Zelda talk. Hope you guys enjoyed it. The Ocean King will be saved soon. You know, after I give Link his hourglass back. You good there, man? Your blood rushing to your head? Are you right there? Are you okay? Oh shit. I think I killed him. Or I think he fainted. Let's go with fainted. Yeah, I think he fainted. Okay, see you guys next time.